guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's 10 tips to 10k. I ran my first ever 10k at the weekend and I am absolutely buzzing. So I thought I'd record a video for you of my top 10 tips, how I went from not being able to run at all to running 10k. So it has a little introduction into my running journey. I have always been awful at any kind of cardio and running. At school I was the absolute worst and I actually found it really embarrassing because I came last in everything, and it got to the point where I was so awful it gave me like really bad anxiety, really bad panic attacks. It got to the point where I actually had to go to the school nurse because the panic attacks were so bad. So ever since school I've kind of wanted to get better at running. I think the first run we went on I could only run about a kilometre, and that was maybe a year and a half ago, and then we'd go on a run maybe once a month, if that, at the very beginning. And so before isolation the furthest I got was 2.5 kilometres, so I only like pretty much added 1.5 kilometres in like a year and a half. So since isolation I have kind of put myself all into it and decided I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna become like not a good runner but like a decent runner, and now I run 10k. So let's get into my top 10 tips with tip number 1 is kind of basic and obvious but very important, which is please run in running trainers. You may have kind of general trainers or like gym trainers. Do not run in them because that will lead to injury. I started running in my gym trainers and I injured my calf and I injured my foot and I couldn't do any activity for a long time. Please do not buy super expensive running trainers because you may try it and decide you hate it, and also there's not really any point at the beginning if you're only running small distances. You can get cheap running trainers quite easily, but please just at least get some form of running trainer so that you don't injure yourself. Tip number 2 is kind of a big one, and I would say the most important one, and that is it all starts with a change of mental attitude. This tip is broken down into a couple of little bits. Firstly, with your mental attitude, you need to go in to a run believing that you can. I always knew I was rubbish at running, so when I started a run I thought, oh, I'm not going to get very far, and then guess what, I didn't get very far. I just thought like I can't do it, I'll see what I can do. It's not going to be very good, so there's no point pushing myself. No, if you don't push yourself you don't get better. Go into a run thinking you can do it, and also set yourself realistic goals. Don't say, oh, I'm going to go out and do a 5k on my first run, because that's not going to happen and you're going to get frustrated. But say you can run a kilometre, say okay, next time I'm going to run 1.3 kilometres, it's only a little bit further, I'm going to push myself, I'm going to do it. It's realistic and it's something that you can push yourself to do, but it's not so intimidating that you don't even want to start. Even if your first run is 500 metres, that is better than nothing. You will get there very slowly, but you will get there, and that's the point. You need to set realistic goals that will kind of take you on a small step-by-step journey to the distance you want to do, whether that's 5k, whether that's 10k, whatever distance. You've got to set goals. Equally with that, in terms of mental attitude, is please don't do what I do and get frustrated if for some reason you get worse. So for one day you can't run as far as you could the previous run. It doesn't mean that you've got worse at running. If you're running regularly, you're not going to be getting worse. It might be that you didn't sleep enough. It might be that you're not fueled well. It might be that you are tired. It might be that your legs still ache from your last run. There could be loads of reasons why you can't run as far as you did the last time. But don't get frustrated with yourself and don't beat yourself up, because you are still making progress. Even if you didn't run as far, going out for a run will open up your lungs. It will help build up all of these capacities, and you will get better. Just don't be a negative Nelly to yourself. And finally, in terms of your mentality, one thing with running is you do need to learn to push through the barrier. My dad said something really useful to me, which was like, okay, what's stopping you? Why are you stopping? Is it your lungs? Is it your legs? What is it? And I'm like, at the moment it's my lungs. And he's like, well, are they in pain? I was saying, no, they're just really struggling to keep up and I'm really out of breath. And he's like, well, being out of breath isn't a bad thing. If you just carry on a little bit, eventually that distance won't put you out of breath. If you just carry on another 100 to 200 meters, next time you'll be able to do that length more easily. Being in discomfort is not a bad thing in sport. Being in pain is a very bad thing, and please learn the difference, and please stop if you're ever in pain. But if you're in discomfort, or you're a bit tired, or your legs are just a bit lacking energy for the last bit of your run, push through, because if you don't push through the barrier, you're never going to get any better. And it may be once you start running a bit further that you have 2 or 3 barriers throughout one run. But if you know you can do it, carry on. And even if you don't know you can do it, you probably can do it, so carry on anyway. If you're not in pain, there's no reason to stop until you finish that run. Tip number 3 is go slowly. This was one of my biggest mistakes when I started running, was because it's called a run, I thought I had to run, and I would like run at almost my sprinting speed, which is why I could only get to 1 kilometre. It is not a run at all, it is a jog, and if anything, it is a slow jog, especially when you get to the bigger distances, and especially when you're starting out. It is a slow jog. You don't need to be thinking about speed at all, you need to be thinking about finishing the run that you're doing. If you're worried about being fast and you're worried about getting it done in a certain time, you'll probably exhaust yourself and you won't be able to carry on. Even if you get kind of halfway through your run and you slow it down, if you've gone too fast at the beginning, your legs are going to be knackered and you won't be able to carry on. You won't be able to push through that barrier. So please take it slow, especially when you're doing your first 5k or your first 10k or your first go at a new distance. It's really tempting to try and do it fast because you want to see how quickly you can do this distance in. But the likelihood is, if you're pushing yourself for speed, you're not going to finish it. My first 5k I nearly didn't finish because I pushed myself too fast, and it was just silly. Please carry on going slowly, and once you've done that distance, then you can think, okay, now I'm going to work on time. But go slowly for the first few runs and the first run of a new distance, because it will be more frustrating for you if you don't finish the run than if you finish it a bit slowly. Tip number 4 is run with a partner. So partners are so useful for motivation. After I came back for isolation, I found a little route that was 3 kilometres, and I would run and not be able to finish it and just walk home. But when I started running with my dad, I suddenly was able to finish it, because I thought to myself as I was running round, like, you can't let this 50-something-year-old man run further than you. Like, you're a young woman, you're supposed to be fit and you go to the gym, he can't run further than you. And don't get me wrong, my dad probably is a lot fitter than me. Like, he's very athletic for his age, he rows and he does squash and gyms and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, no, he cannot run home if you can't, and he's gonna do it because he's a very good sportsman and he just pushes through. So I decided on that run I wasn't gonna let him get home without me, and so I finally finished that circuit for the first time. Also, I've run with James, who's a really good runner. He hasn't run properly in like years, but when he was at school he did run a half marathon, so he's kind of like my expert. But he's really good at like encouraging me as I'm going round, saying like, I feel bad for him actually, because I complain the whole way. I'm like, my legs hurt, I've got a stitch, my stomach, like my lungs hurt, I can't do it anymore. And he's like, yes you can, like keep pushing, like it's just one foot in front of the other, like a bit further, like you've done this distance before, keep going. So I think having someone there to push you and just remind you that you can do it really helps. I know it's easier said than done in isolation, and it might not be possible, but after this is all over, or if you're isolating with family, even if you're both rubbish at running, having someone there to push you can really help, because also you don't want to give up, because then you feel like you're ruining the other person's run. Even if you're just as good as each other, you kind of want to push each other to go. Tip number 5 is that you have to do it regularly. If you really want to get better at running, you have to do it regularly. Like I said, when I first kind of started again about a year and a half ago, I went like once every month or whatever and didn't make hardly any progress. It wasn't until isolation, when I committed myself, and I now run 2 to 3 times a week, that I got better. So I started with 3 times a week, so I wasn't running very far each time. And now I do 2 or 3 depending on the length of the runs that we're doing that week. If you're not doing it regularly, you're not going to get any better. It's the same as anything, like the annoying old cheesy phrase, practice makes perfect. It really is true. At least once a week you need to be running if you really want to get better, preferably twice. But keep in mind the 10% rule. So for new runners, you should not be running more than 10% further than what you ran the previous week, each week. Otherwise you risk injuring yourself, because you're putting suddenly a lot of stress on your joints and your muscles and your bones. For example, there was a point where I was running 3 kilometres 3 times a week, so I'd be running 9 kilometres. So that meant the next time I could run 9.9, so basically 10 kilometres, so I could do a 3, a 3 and a 4. And then gradually, the more you add up, the bigger you can add on each time. It just means that you're going to avoid injuring yourself and putting yourself under too much pressure too soon. Tip number 6 is to properly fuel yourself for your runs, and this is so important. If you are not properly fueled, you will not be able to run very far at all. As like a personal example, I got to the point a couple of weeks ago where I'd run this same 5 kilometre route maybe 4 times. I went to do it one day and I couldn't finish it because I hadn't fueled myself properly the day before. To get better in any sport, you need to be eating enough to fuel your muscles. You need to have a lot of carbohydrates before and protein after so that your muscles can recover, but you also need to be getting enough sleep and enough rest before. You don't want to run 2 days in a row, for example, because the second day you're going to be pretty useless. Stretching and foam rolling, if you have a foam roller and have access to a foam roller. You need to warm up before your run and stretch out, but then after your run you also need to stretch again to make sure your muscles can recover and be ready to take you on your next run. Tip number 7 is to vary your routes. Again, this is more of a tip for the mindset, but it really does help. If you're running the same route all the time, it gets really easy to get to a point and think, oh, I've still got over half to go, or oh, I know there's a big hill coming up around the corner, or oh, I've run this before, what's the point of me doing it again? I found that quite a lot when I was running 5Ks around the same loop all the time. I'd be like, well, I've run it before, why am I doing it again? So varying your route kind of really motivates you to keep going, and I find it a lot easier mentally if you're running a different route every now and then. But also it means that it means that you're able to run any 5K. So for example, the route you're doing now could be a really easy version of a 5 kilometres. Say you've got a really long downhill near the end, that's going to be quite a nice way to finish, and it's going to mean that just as you're getting exhausted, you're going downhill and you can finish really easily. Whereas if you go a different way around and then suddenly you've got to go uphill at the end, you may really struggle at the end. So if you vary your routes and find routes where you struggle at different points, it means that you can be thrown onto any 5K track and you're gonna complete it. Tip number 8 is to record your progress. This is again really motivational. I wrote all of my distance, speed and times down in a notebook, and it was actually really key in keeping me motivated and keeping me wanting to run, because each time you get a bit further you think, oh, okay, where am I going to go next time? You know, maybe next time will be when I'll hit my 4K, or next time I'll hit my 5K. And it really motivates you to keep going and working on your running, and reminds you why you're kind of doing this torturous exercise a couple of times a week, because you can see yourself getting better at it. Tip number 9 is to remember that you can focus on more than just the distance you're running. Signs that you're getting better aren't just running further, but it's also running faster or feeling better with each run. I wear a Fitbit, so if I run the same route and my heart rate's lower, it means that I'm getting fitter, my lungs are getting more able to cope, and I'm getting better at running. But equally, if you can run the same distance faster, that's going to help you run longer as well, because it's all part of improving the same breathing system, the same circulatory system, and the same muscles that are getting strengthened. So the more you can improve in different aspects of your run, the faster you'll be able to go the next time, and the longer you'll be able to go the next time. So for example, because I can now do a 5K fairly comfortably, and I'm working on getting higher distances, and I've now done my 10K, if I do 2 runs a week, I'll do 1 5K, and each time I do that I want to get faster. I'm working on making it feel easier on myself because I'm getting more used to that distance, but also running it faster, and then I'll run a longer distance like a 7 to 10K to improve on running further, which means you get a good balance of working on all aspects of your run. Also, if I do 3 runs in 1 week, 2 weeks ago we did one where we just wanted to run fast for a really short distance. So we did 2 kilometres and we just did it as fast as we could, which is, let me tell you, even though at this point I was running I think 8 kilometres, that 2K was one of the hardest runs I've done, because pushing yourself in different aspects of your run, it can be really challenging, but it's also really rewarding and will help your run in all areas. My final tip, number 10, is to celebrate each win. Each time you run faster, each time you run further, celebrate it. When you hit the 5K, the 6K, the 7K, whatever, when you hit your first kilometre, whatever it might be, celebrate it, remind yourself of how far you've come. I find it mad to look back now at the runs I did at the beginning and just think how far I can run now and how much easier running is for me. And so each time I run further, I celebrate it and think, wow, I'm really making progress here. And it motivates me to keep wanting to run and keep getting better. So those are my top 10 tips to 10k. I hope they've been useful for you guys. I know I've kind of experimented through this running journey and really want to share with you how I really made a difference. I spent a long time not really getting anywhere with my running, and then I finally found momentum and thought, right, I've got to share this. So I really hope it's been useful. Please let me know down below any other videos you'd like to see from me. If you'd like to see a video on managing diabetes around running, I can definitely do that. Just let me know below. And I hope you guys have a good day, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye!